Hello and welcome to another episode of the What SHU Doing podcast. I am Aaron Burrell alongside Paul Garino.
What's up, everybody?
We are joined by a very special guest, the one, the only, Ty Carter. Ty, how you doing?
I'm great. How are y'all?
Good.
Good. Yeah, glad to get this going. We were talking a little bit before. This has been a long time coming, so we are excited about this one. But we like to kick things off here and talk about your origin story to SHU. So how did you first hear about SHU and why did you decide that was a school for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I first heard about Sacred Heart through basketball. I was recruited to play there under Jessica Minetti, who is still the head coach of the women's basketball team. Obviously, at the time, we're in the NEC conference. They're currently in the MAC. But yeah, I went. I took my visit at the school, and honestly, I fell in love with the plans that they had as far as the communications program and understanding what I wanted to do from a young age with working in sports and getting into being a sports reporter and all these other junctures of my life, which I'm currently living out. I felt as though SHU could be the place that helps me fulfill that. And ultimately it was. So glad that I was able to choose Sacred Heart and to see the success that the school has had and growth and all these buildings that I've never got to experience. But it's pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah, we always talk about, I feel like our degrees look better and better every year.
100%.
Telling you.
What about, I usually ask the question later, but how did you know what you wanted to do already? Like you just kind of mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, let's be realistic. And I'm a realist all the way. I was like, I'm going to go here. I'm going to play basketball for 4 years. The ball is going to have to stop bouncing one day. And then what? I was always super in tune with sports and knowing that I wanted to work in sports in some capacity. And I was like, the likelihood of me going and playing overseas like that, for me, I felt as though that wasn't going to happen. And I was okay with that reality at a young age. I just wanted to go to school, make connections, win, be a part of like team camaraderie, and obviously make an impact. And I felt like those were the boxes that I was able to check. So for me, it was just kind of being aligned with my passions and understanding that, like, yeah, I might not hoop after college, but I do want to be around the game because that's how much I love it and I care about it.
That's cool. You're the first person. Like similarly, I had a similar story. Like I was an athlete and then wanted to go to Sacred Heart because I knew it was in the Northeast. I wanted to work in sports media. Did you have a similar thing? Did you know that like, all right, if I'm in the Northeast, because if I'm remembering correctly, you're not from the Northeast.
Nah, I'm from Virginia. Honestly, it wasn't that piece of things. It was more so for me, like when I was walking with Katie Shepard, and she was in the sports media program as well. She was like on my visit with me. We were going to all these different buildings and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, like uniquely, I could understand how this could help me in the future, like already just from like this visit, it being hyped up and stuff like that. And so that really was the case. I didn't put two and two together like we were near ESPN and all of those other great things. Obviously, they told me, and I believe I met Bobby V like while I was on my visit as well. Like they made that like a part of it. So, it was kind of wrapped in a bow where it was like, okay, educationally, like this works out. And I think as especially young women, there's not really many avenues after school to hoop anyway. Like, yeah, you can go overseas, make a couple dollars here and there or whatever. But I think you have to be real with yourself. Like, what does my career look like on this piece of paper, like locked in? And that's the degree. And so being able to get 2 degrees all paid for, like I couldn't have asked for, I would say a better gift to my parents, really, having, no type of debt to have to pay back to them. And so that's really like the story of how it kind of came about. And I felt like it would work out for me.
That's amazing. And obviously being locked in on media, was it always like, I want to be a sports reporter? Was it, some people may think they want to be behind the camera and then end up like in front of it or vice versa. What was it for you?
It was always I wanted to be a sports reporter. I didn't know how I was going to get there, and I didn't know how people did it, really. And so that was just kind of like a learning grounds that I think I have learned more about year after year within myself. And so even now I'm still learning like the ends, like who you have to know. And a lot of it is who you know. Obviously, the practicing piece of it and getting reps is huge. But what I didn't understand at that time was like, I thought news, like small markets and stuff like that, was the way that you had to go to be in sports. And that's what a lot of people do. But I did not take that route personally, and I'm blessed that I didn't have to. But like my way into sports, like my segue was um, senior year. I had an SID. Her name was Aja Holly Alexander, and she was leaving Sacred Heart to go take a job for the New York Liberty as their PR person. At this time, the New York Liberty were playing at the Westchester County Center in New York. And so Aja was like, hey, like, I know you want to work in sports. I want to get you some experience with me. Like, come be like a stat runner. And so I was like, okay, cool. I did not know exactly what that meant, but I'm like, I'm finna work for the WNBA real fast. Like, okay, cool. Like this is gonna be fun. And so I was in my grad classes, and then I was working game night staff for the New York Liberty. Had an internship on campus with this show called CT Sports Now, and so I was part of CT Sports Now and all that other stuff. And when I look back at like those reps that I was getting there, I was terrible. Like I was like, oh, I'm not very good at this. And so just practice really, and just making good of like what all that means to become a sports reporter.
Yeah, that's funny too, because when I was looking at your your LinkedIn, I was like, well, actually, low key, we're all three of us are kind of coworkers because we all worked on that show.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
full circle right now.
I know, for real. It's funny, like how many people I think in like maybe in like 10 years we'll all look back and be like, how many careers, like really were helped by that show. It is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So what about going back to SHU? What was your overall experience like at SHU?
It was great. Again, I played on the basketball team, and so within that, I met friends who became sisters. Just being able to be I'm about 6 hours away from home. Like I had a lot of growing up to do, and I had to do it quickly, and I felt like I was able to accomplish that. My best friend to this day, like we played on the basketball team together and met one another at SHU. I'm gonna be in a wedding this Thursday, bridesmaid, with one of my former teammates at SHU, and so I say that to say like I was able to accomplish what others I think dream of, which is a level of sisterhood and companionship. And so I'm very blessed for that. And I would just say the overall experience, like it's a dream to be able to play Division I basketball and to travel, to go to these different places, and really just, I would say, learn. Like I learned a lot. I learned social media etiquette at that, because I remember one day I had gotten in trouble because I posted like a red solo cup, and like my coach did not play that. And mind you, it wasn't nothing in the solo cup for real, but like she was just like, what does it look like if you being on social media and a little kid sees that? But to this day though, like I kind of monitor like what I put on my page, because I didn't get it now, but I get it then. Like she's correct. Like you should be trying to display yourself as professional as possible. And so if I don't go there, maybe I don't learn those type of life lessons at a young age.
Mm. Have you seen the new Pitt Center?
No, I have not.
Oh.
I've seen photos, but I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we asked Evan Kelly how many buckets he would get in the new Pitt Center. He was like, "Oh, a lot, no doubt." So I was gonna ask you how many you would get if you had been, but
I think I go crazy a little bit one time.
Talk that talk.
All right, I don't remember. Did you win the NEC championship?
So no, we'll go back on memory lane here. We went to the NEC finals when I was a sophomore. We lost to Robert Morris at home. Very heartbreaking. We went to the NIT twice. Yeah. So
what was that like?
The NIT was good, cool. So the very first time we went, we played Drake. We went to Iowa.
Okay.
We did not know they were so good. We got out there, we was like, oh. They were really good. So we went there, and then the second time, we didn't get to fly nowhere. We played against St. John's at St. John's in the NIT, and we had already played them before, like in a regular season, a non-conference game. And so it was a great experience. Obviously, you get banners for going to the NIT, but we did not win an NEC championship. And so I would say, if it's one thing that like I think about sometimes, like my experience, like that still hurts me to this day. Like I wanted to win really bad, and we didn't have an opportunity to do that. So
I feel that. So obviously, was working in the W like the goal, or were you just like, I'll work as a sports reporter in anything?
So working in the W was not the goal for me. It was my way in. And I will say this about the WNBA. It has been the most, I would say, fulfilling job that I could have. So my title for the WNBA is not a sports reporter, but the connections that I have made with this full-time job has been the way to getting these different gigs and stuff within sports. And so um one day I had first graduated from school. I was having a hard time getting a job anyway. I was applying to like small markets for news, doing all this stuff. I didn't have much of a reel. I was just trying to figure it out for real, for real. I was working at a car dealership as a receptionist in Fredericksburg, Virginia, a Cadillac car dealership. So they loved me there. I was about to say like they loved me there. So they allowed me like bring my laptop and stuff to work as long as I was like answering the phones, doing what I was supposed to do for the paperwork, and I was applying to jobs like every day. And so I just applied for the job on LinkedIn. Like that's how I got my WNBA job. I didn't have too much of a resume, but enough. My basketball knowledge was high, and so I believe my personality just worked out really to help with that. And then the building blocks, I was freelancing and doing whatever I could. I wasn't getting paid, but just popping into like Mystics games here and there. Obviously, I had that game night staff experience. And so that's how that worked out. And I was bothering the hiring manager. Like once they reached out to me and I like got a name, I said, okay, this is the person I need to be emailing like every couple weeks to check in. And so COVID had hit though during this time. So I was in the process of interviewing and she was like, yeah, we don't know if we're going to have a season or not. And so I just let her know. I was like, well, if you end up having a season, I'm just letting you know that I am still very interested in this job and I would love to come in and do whatever I can for the WNBA. And during COVID, weeks would go by, I'll still hit her up. Hey, I don't know if y'all opened up the applications back up yet, but I'm still free. So that's really what I did. I was super annoying.
That's I feel like PG's his biggest pet peeve is like he always is telling folks like stay persistent on people.
Yeah, I feel like that's what people always ask about advice, and I always say that just like consistency is key, and just you gotta just follow up with people. I don't know why people are scared to follow up with people.
It can be intimidating.
At that age, so that was some time ago. I was probably like 22, I'm thinking, around that age, 23. I just was fearful more so of like annoying somebody to the point where they like we not hiring you, you know. But I was pleasant with it. I had learned something, so I was a part of Maria Taylor. She had a cohort, and I got selected for it. And one of the things that they taught us was how to send emails and be straight to the point, short with people. Don't send people novels and books. Like jump to it. And so every email I sent, hey, still interested in the role if you're going to open it back up. Look forward to talking to you soon. You don't say hearing from you soon. You say talking to you soon to insinuate like, get me on the phone. I want to verbally speak to you, email me or whatever. And so I took like these little pieces of advice and things that I was learning from other professionals who had already been there into my path. And that's kind of how it worked out.
Mm. That's crazy. So, all right, let's talk about the first day when you get to the W. What was that first day like? What, was there nerves? Is there excitement? What's going on?
It was excitement. So my first day, onboarding was a lot. First of all, I was in like all these boring meetings and stuff like that. But when the season started, that was very cool. So the year is 2020. Everybody who was a part of the staff that was like on site at this time, they're in the bubble. I was at home working remotely. So every day I'm logging on to my computer, coming up with content ideas, plans, or whatever with the people and who I'm working with, my counterparts. And so I was super excited to just be a part of a league in which I have followed since I was a little girl. I have pictures of myself. Like I was at the White House when I don't remember who had won a championship, but like I was there as a youngin, or like on an Easter egg hunt type thing. Since I live like in this area, and so it was just gratitude, really. Like I was eager to learn. I was live tweeting, so that was a big part of my role at that time, and publishing. Downloading the highlights, coming up with the captions that you see like on the post for the WNBA, brainstorming different ways to be unique within our content, posting the graphics and stuff that you see across every single platform that is WNBA related. So
And I mean, it's funny. Like I was on, I forget where I was, but I was working somewhere in the field, and I saw a video, and it was a WNBA video, and I want to say it was with Angel Reese, and it was a video on Twitter, and all of a sudden I heard it was like admin, and then it had like the person asking a question, and I'm like, I know I recognize this voice. And and I know it was you. And it's funny because I turned to the people I was working with. I'm like, oh, I know her. I know her. Like I was going crazy. So what was that like for you? You know, like the first time you saw like a WNBA post going out that like you were directly involved in. You know, is that like a surreal feeling for you? You know, what's going on?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a surreal feeling to know that you are making a positive impact and change on the league. I would say I was with the league when we first reached 1 million followers on Instagram. We're at 3.2 million now. So it's like the growth that it embodies and stuff like that. And for them to leverage me in a way where I can use my creativity, voicing over videos, like I'm on the commercial for like the Commissioner's Cup spot where I'm voicing it over, and those are a part of like my everyday task and like abilities. We did like these videos in the off season, and they run on League Pass, where it's like the history of like our league and stuff like that. We did it for Women's History Month, and so within that, it's like I'm not a front facing person or personnel within the company, but knowing what it is that I do directly affects like our numbers, our content, what people are seeing and digesting. That just makes me happy.
Nice. How often do people send you videos like, wait, I didn't know you were doing this? Because they they hear you or whatever it may be.
All the time. I think people don't really understand what my job is. First of all, like they don't understand like social media. I think they think a lot of posts just magically like get out there. It's a whole process though to
Social media is easy, the normal people say.
Yeah, because they're the ones consuming it, right? But the people who have to go through wires to get things approved, they don't understand the do's and don'ts. Like for us, you read the comments, you get feedback like, why aren't they hopping on like certain trends and stuff? And it's like, well, we can't use commercial music or you'll get a big fat fine. Like, there's a lot of ins and outs that people I think don't truly understand about social media. And I think one of my biggest things that I stay true to and want to hold myself like accountable for and a high standard as a former player, you always want to make these athletes look in the best light like as possible. And so if there's something that we have to skip out on because someone don't like the way they look, and we're dealing with women here, like, or photos that they don't want out there or something, like it is our job and our duty to make sure, like, if you got to skip on a big piece of content to make sure like the athlete is satisfied, then you just got to be like, you know what, forget it, like scratch that and kind of divert. And that is what social media is about too, being able to think on the fly and also try to find different ways that you want your brand to stick out to people.
Mm-hmm. And obviously being at the league now, like you mentioned the first 1 million followers, now you've tripled that since. Like, I feel like we're at a major moment for the league. And what is that like for you being there and being an active part of that? Like, you are very much involved in that growth.
Love it. What it feels like is I often think to the future, like I'll be able to tell my kids about this one day. And how I look back at like the old graphics and stuff, and this isn't a knock to whomever was doing it, like just seeing the evolution of the league and what we have done and how we have grown. When I first started in 2020, our department was called the affiliate leagues. Like it wasn't even a separate WNBA department. That's how small it was. And when I was done working with the WNBA, like in the off season, I would get assigned to work for like other departments to help out. So like I was live tweeting on the NBA fantasy page because we weren't like a priority. I'm not going to say a priority, but we didn't have the bodies, I'll say, and we didn't have enough people that were solely dedicated to just the W. Now you fast forward to 2025, our department is still small, but it's much bigger. Like I was when I initially started, I was called a project employee. A project employee is someone who has 2 10-month contracts, and you have to get, you know, meetings with your boss and stuff after the first 10 months is up. You're required to go on a 2-month break after that first 10-month contract for them to like reevaluate, assess. People were coming in and out, and they weren't coming in and out because they didn't want to stay. That was just the structure of it. So now we have people who are tenured and actually able to have full-time jobs, and they're converting project employees over to stay. And so it reflects in the social media. There is carryover now. And so I think what I used to realize was, because we had new people coming in and out because terms were ending, like contracts were up, that there's more fluidity, that you have more time to understand our audience, that we can build our voice and our brand in a better way. And so I feel like that's because whether that's HR or whoever has responsibilities for hiring, they understood the magnitude of we're in a special time right now, and we need people solely dedicated to the WNBA and what it means to come across as strong on social media, so people want to keep up with it and follow. And so the demand is high, so therefore we have to have people and employees who are bought into this.
Yeah, definitely. I know you, since you worked for the New York Liberty, what was that like to see them go from Westchester to winning the championship last year?
Oh man, so surreal. Like I'm a Washington Mystics fan just because, you know, I'm from Roundaway, but honorary Mystic, Liberty fan here, where I was just in awe. Like I was so happy for them, what they were able to build, being at the sold out games, the entertainment aspect, the marketing. Like they have upped the score over and over and over again, and so that was a privilege to be a part of that championship, and knowing and what they endured, and how I was running around that little building, giving out like stat sheets. Like it's literally tiny. And so the fact that they were able to change things and do it so quickly too, that was very special, monumental moment in league history. And for them to win their first ever championship, I felt like that was so special too. And so being able to cover that, like I think we did a phenomenal job of like getting all angles of like these different players, highlighting storylines, their journeys, and within that, it caused for this to be like so special. And then now they're off to an 8-0 start again, and you know, on the verge of making more history potentially.
And I love to ask about people's best, and I wouldn't say worst, but hardest, like most challenging day at work. I mean, I think for best, hearing that you went to the White House is hard to top that, but maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe you have better.
Best day at work? This is tough. I can I have two?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You have a best week if you need.
The first was maybe my first championship on site when Candace Parker and the Chicago Sky had won the championship. Like that was, Candace Parker's my favorite player. Okay. So one, to be able to like interview them, get all the content, like to be a part of that was my favorite. Then we went out with the team afterwards, so I'm in the club with Candace. Like that was top tier. That was my favorite moment. I would say okay, like second, probably we had Steph and Sabrina last year, and at NBA All-Star Weekend. So I was there. I did like a voiceover video. That did numbers on social media. We collabed with like the NBA. So I followed Sabrina from the moment that she like got into the building. And she had like a shoot around with Steph, and it basically like was like a piece where we were like pushing tune in for the event that was happening the following day. And so she was practicing like her 3-pointers and stuff like that. So I was recording that, and then Steph walked in. So got their interaction of them with one another or whatever before the big shoot off. Then the next day I followed her again, leading up to the contest, her and Steph or whatever. And then I was on the ground as it was happening live, and I'm recording like all her shots going in, had to get it out on social media. So that was pretty cool too.
That's awesome. And what about the most challenging day? I always say, because it's you know, there's necessarily you have bad days and you have days that you learn. So
before you answer that though, but I also saw the video. I'm pretty sure that might be one of your most viral videos. Didn't Candace Parker compliment your hair?
Yeah. that was that All-Star weekend. That was my first All-Star weekend. So we was in Vegas. And she said my hair was fire. So
That's crazy.
yeah, I'm going to her jersey retirement. She's getting her jersey retired June 29th in LA. So that'll be another day for me where I'm just like greatness. Yeah.
You're
Um,
basically bi-coastal at this point.
I'm telling you, it's taking a toll on me, but you know, it should be cool. But hardest day at work, I would say it's tough sometimes seeing the conversations like the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark stuff and trying to figure out how to navigate it in a positive light, in a positive stand when you know that they're both two, you know, great young players trying their best for the league and for themselves personally. And so navigating like different comments and stuff, I would say a day in particular, like we were going through social media and it was like, damn, like they calling her like monkey and all these other things. I'm like, what are we going to do about this, you know? And so having to bring up like these tough conversations, especially being like a Black woman, is like, you know, you want to stand up for them and stuff and find the right route to go about it. And so we had to do that, like flagging different comments, saying, you know, how do we block these people? How do we monitor this better? I think that's really tough. To see people talk down on like another athlete that is just trying to go out there, play basketball, and you know do right for herself and whomever. So those conversations are hard to navigate because I know that social media comes along with negativity at times. That's just the world that we live in, like trolls, whatever the case. But I think there comes a point and there's a level. Like you calling athletes bees and you know just all this other stuff. It's like, okay, now like, and it's so many of them. Like every once in a while you're like, okay, well that's social, like you're gonna get people who are talking their stuff. But when it becomes a epidemic, might be a bit dramatic, but a lot, you're like, okay, there has to be something done about this. Like we have to speak up, we have to say something and quickly. And so doing our part to make sure that got done, I think was key. But then there's, you know, other levels and levels and levels above us that have to then step in. And so I think that was the hardest to navigate.
Okay, well, that's tough, but it's you know, it's crazy to see, like as you mentioned, like it is probably the, I mean, well, as an outsider looking in, it looks like the biggest moment in W history, like right now that we're experiencing, of just interest, attention, you know, maybe money being poured into the game. That's as an outsider. Obviously, you have the insider's perspective on that, so it's real interesting to hear. All right, PG, is it time for what shoe or fun shoe? I almost said what shoe. Fun shoe.
All right. What was your favorite dorm to live on that campus?
My favorite dorm? I didn't live at PG Gardens. We lived down the street. What was it called though? We lived
Taft.
Yeah, we lived at Taft. Yeah. Yeah. Me and my teammates, we lived at Taft and I had a lot of fun there. Just because, you know, it was out the way. It felt like an apartment, like it had an upstairs, downstairs type of situation. So I lived at Taft and I lived with my teammates Kiana. I lived with Kelsey and Adasia. Yeah, we have fun there.
It's funny. We just saw Carl the other day, and he was talking about Taft and how much fun Taft is. I've been hearing a lot of Taft like recently.
Yeah,
it's funny.
we call ourselves Taft babies. No, we was like that's like off campus. Like that's kind of like a hype. Yeah.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. Favorite food on campus?
Maybe Will on the grill when he would make the omelets.
Yeah, they should have named that. Now I think about it, you giving them free game. Like that should have been called Will on the grill.
Yeah, the omelets used to be good.
Yeah, that's a fact.
What about? Did you have a favorite professor?
Well, you gonna put me on the spot?
Yeah.
I love them all, but Professor Alicastro is my favorite. He has my heart. Like that's
Miller's not gonna like that one.
I love them all, but yeah,
he wants it to be him.
Paps, those are my guys. But
yeah, Miller's like third. I feel you.
He know we here though. Like that's my guy. He can hit me up. We straight.
No, that's a fact. All right, favorite memory on campus.
Favorite memory make nothing up. Favorite memory. Ooh. I don't know. That's really hard. I had a lot of good memories like from Sacred Heart. There's not like a particular moment that comes to my mind.
All right, then I'll switch to this. What was your favorite sporting event outside of basketball to go to?
Oh, football. I
Okay.
feel like that's easy. We used to tailgate. We used to have to go sometimes to like host recruits or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely enjoyed like the football games, the environment, how they were good. So yeah.
Yeah, you came in a good time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Sorry,
Nice.
AB, she didn't say soccer.
No, I knew she wasn't going to. It's all good. We still love the women's basketball team too, and the men's basketball team. We used to go.
Listen, I spread the wealth. I love everybody. We used to go to the women's volleyball games. Like I enjoyed volleyball.
Yeah, we used to be at the basketball games making. Well,
Rabbit, yeah.
Yeah, we were making noise. I remember the old Pitt Center, the hoop. If we used to jump in the bleachers behind the hoop would kind of rock like this.
Yeah.
I remember one time they like stopped us. They were like, "Y'all gotta stop this, or we're gonna have to forfeit the game because y'all are cheating." And I was like, "Oh, we ain't trying to do all that."
Yeah, not cheating.
All right, last one. What's one thing you miss at SHU?
One thing that I miss, not having to pay no bills. What?
That might have been the
All
best.
I gotta do is wake up.
That is 100% the best answer we've heard.
Work out,
that was the
play
best answer.
basketball, go to sleep, and not have to pay for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best answer we've heard. That's the way to end this. Ty, we want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed y'all.
Of course. Well, this has been another episode of the What SHU Doing podcast. We appreciate y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.